mine says off.
Good evening. I'm calling to order the Fountain City Council meeting of April 11th. Before we stand up for our Pledge of Allegiance, I would just like to have just a moment of recognition for the city of Louisville, Kentucky, and what they're going through right now. And I hope everyone remembers them in their thoughts and prayers as they're going through a tragedy and have a police officer severely injured. So if you could just remember that in your thoughts and prayers. So please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes. Here. Councilmember Hinton.
Here.
Councilmember Corey. Councilmember Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
I have 6 members present.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Corey did mention that he is on call this week, and so the possibility that he might be a little bit late. So I'm sure hopefully he'll be joining us here quickly. All right, that takes us on to item 4.1, presentations. First item is El Paso County Public Health Department presentation for the National Public Health Week. Hi, welcome.
But I'm here. Oh, better? I'm a little tall. Director Whelan was unable to join us tonight, but extends her gratitude and deep appreciation for the opportunity to share a little bit. And we have a very brief video featuring you, Mayor Thompson.
At El Paso County Public Health, our mission is to promote and protect public health and environmental quality across El Paso County through people, prevention, and partnerships under the leadership of the Board of Health.
If you're not healthy, you can't really work. And if, kids aren't healthy, they can't really go to school and learn. So at the most fundamental level, you need health in order to be a productive member of society.
I think until COVID hit, a lot of people really didn't pay attention to what public health does in the community. And the fact that the county, the cities, and public health all came together to do what was best for the citizens immediately. They knew they couldn't wait 6 months or a year to figure it out, but it's just been a great building opportunity for those relationships to come to the forefront, and I hope they stay there for our community.
Bringing people together, making strong community connections, and building strategic partnerships to support the health of our community is what we do every day.
RISE have 70 plus coalition members. And so to be able to work with them, to help them with their visions and missions as well, so they helping us. We're a team, and we're all serving the same population of people.
Prevention is at the core of public health initiatives. From healthy food and exercise to community-wide efforts to support mental health, wellness, and resilience. We all play a part in ensuring the health of our community.
The fact that the community and public health brings together all of these partners and collaborative efforts, we know those resources. They're now a warm handoff, not just, hey, call this number. It's an actual warm handoff that's happening because we have that collaboration going on in our community.
At the end of the day, it's people who are at the heart of El Paso County Public Health. This dedicated team works tirelessly to realize our vision for all El Paso County residents. To live in thriving communities where every person has the opportunity to achieve optimal health.
Public health has produced a space for us to all get together and say, let's do this under one banner of hope, under one banner of help, under one banner of healing for our community. And public health made that possible.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you for letting me share that video. And we're here tonight really just to thank you all. Mayor Thompson, for your support in that video. I think you said it so eloquently, focusing on the partnerships to serve residents. And City Council from El Paso County Public Health, we'd like to thank each of you for your guidance, your leadership, your support. We've done so much together. Some of the things that come to mind recently around substance use and mental health, our Communities That Care program that works to prevent and reduce substance use among youth in the Fountain Valley, partnered with Fountain Police Department last year to host 2 DEA drug take-back days. And across those 2 events in April and October, collected more than 270 pounds of unused or expired medications, getting them out of households, keeping them out of falling into the wrong hands, and helping keep our community safer. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we are partnering with Fountain PD and Security Fire as well to host 2 additional host sites at Security Fire Station 1 and the Fountain Library again, and would just encourage residents to come out. If you have unused, expired prescription medications, it's a great opportunity to get those out of the house. And just thanking you all for one of our most exciting developments as well in recent years, the ability to open a new public health location right here in Fountain, which has been amazing in terms of expanding our ability to provide services for residents. Again, on substance use, we partnered with a lot of local partners to do a town hall and community conversation on the dangers of fentanyl, and that would not be possible without your support. So really just here as we wrap up National Public Health Week to thank you. Thank you again for that support. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys coming down here tonight to do the presentations. Anybody have any questions for them? Any comments? Councilmember Duncan.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight. So the Take Back, the drug Take Back, that's an
Yes.
awesome program. A lot of people are diabetics, so if they have the needles, what do you want them to do with those?
Let me double check with our experts. I think they have some pretty specific guidelines, but I'll see what resources are available for anyone with needles.
Okay,
I
thank you.
don't think we can take those at the event, but I will double check.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Do you remember the dates of those by chance?
I do. So it will be Saturday, April 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Fountain Library and Security Fire Station 1.
Okay. And I remember when you did the 200 pounds last year, it was way over what we'd ever done before. And
It was incredible.
Yeah, so clean out those cupboards again and get those medications out, because if they're a year or two expired, they're probably not going to, it's not going to help your headache very much.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. And that takes us on to the next item, the Magellan Strategies Outbrief to Council and the Public on the Street Funding Voter Opinion Survey.
Good evening. I think we're one slide ahead. It's good to see you again. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to help measure voter opinion for the city of Fountain for a different need and in a different environment.
Could I get you to state your name for the record,
Yes,
please?
David Flaherty of Magellan Strategies. So, okay. But let's get to it. Let's talk about what we did and what we measured this time around. This survey, the objective obviously was to measure voter support and opposition levels for a 1% sales tax to join the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. The survey interviewed 741 registered voters. The data collection method was both MMS text as well as promotion through the city's email list, as well as on some channels on social media. The margin of error of this survey, the top line measurement, is plus or minus 3.53% at the 95% confidence level. Margins of error are going to be a little bit higher just among men, women, and other subgroups. And these results were weighted to be representative of the odd year election typical turnout in the city of Fountain. And if we can, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in charge of this, my bad. I so apologize for that. So what do we mean by that? And this is important. The same people don't vote at same levels in all election cycles. As you can understand, a presidential election, people are going to turn out at their highest amount. An odd year election, and that's the green bar here in 2021, as you can see, or going back to 2019, on average in the city of Fountain, roughly 4,100 people turn out. The demographics are also different, and when you compare them to a midterm election like we had last year for your public safety ballot measure, as you can see, folks that were 18 to 34 years old made up 20% of the vote, or just under 21%. In an odd year election, though, however, regardless of what may be on the ballot, they just vote in lower numbers. And that can have implications that I'll get to in a little bit. Most importantly, though, seniors 65 and older, even though they only make up 12% of registration, they vote in very large numbers. And seniors, especially when you're posing to them ballot measures that will increase a property or sales tax, especially in this inflationary times, are, look, they would love to have new roads, sure, for free, but at the end of the day, they're very, very tax sensitive, more so perhaps than younger voters. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly true, but the bottom line is that just sort of, you should understand, going to ask voters in any economic environment in an odd year election is usually the toughest year to go, just simply because seniors do make up more of turnout, where younger voters are more tax tolerant, if you will. So please keep that in mind. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? We good there? My point is, it's going to be harder to pass something this year compared to last year, simply because turnout's going to be smaller and seniors are making up a larger portion of turnout. Okay? City of Fountain ward map. Again, we like to have the wards in there so that when we reference wards, you know where they are, as you already know. Okay, let's get right to it on condition of the roads. Voters are not going to approve something unless they feel the condition of the roads, especially for a road tax. If the roads are in great shape, they're like, I don't think this is necessary. So what we're comparing to, and just so you know, we did a similar survey in 2022, and so for some slides we're comparing to what we measured last year versus this year. Please keep in mind, though, consider the 22 numbers where you're going to have younger voters are going to be a much larger portion of turnout, where in 2023, you're going to have much older voters. So when we ask, how would you rate the condition of the roads? Just under half, or 48% of all respondents in this survey said that they were in poor condition, 36% only fair, and 15% said they were good. The percent that said that they were poor has increased, and the percent that said they're good, they're decreased. What's this really mean? It means that voters, you don't need to convince them this is a need. They know the roads are poor. They're going to want to address that. So the need for this ballot measure that you're asking for, it's not, even though this is, we'd love to have better roads, this is good because they're like, yes, you're addressing a problem where I definitely think where we need help. So that's a good thing. I'm sorry. Is my clicker? Okay. And again, I'm going to breeze over some of these slides so they won't have to get into all of the details. Because the bottom line is on this measurement, a significant over the majority of your likely voters of 2021 feel that the roads are in poor condition, and they're willing to listen. Okay, I got it. I do want to address this. If this was the other way, like we did a survey last year in the city of Gunnison out in the Western Slope, the road condition levels were much better, and they're like, I don't think this is necessary. I think the roads are fine. I'm not going to pay for this half-cent sales tax, just as a comparison. So, moving forward, do you approve or disapprove of the job the City of Fountain does maintaining and improving the city's streets, roads, and bridges? Understand something. Here's why we ask a question like this. It's not to give any guys in public works or gals a black eye. Please understand that. But it's important that the voters have confidence that the city and the entity asking for the revenue, especially the department that's going to be in charge of this, they approve of. Compared to last year where we had a 1-to-1 improvement, among the 2023 electorate, again, which I will point out is older and it's not a total apples to apples, the percent that disapprove has increased a little bit and the percent that approve has decreased by 7 points. This is relevant, okay? Any kind of campaign, if you decide to put this on the ballot, people are going to need to be convinced that, okay, if I give you this money, you're going to be doing a good job. So we would like to see better numbers here. And again, this is in the eye of the older voter, if you will. Where should I be pointing this? Oh, sorry, thank you. And then again, I'm not going to get into a ton of things here, but more than anything, this is breaking out by voter subgroup. And keep in mind, those seniors are going to be the largest voting group. 51% disapprove, which is good. That's a little bit lower than the citywide average. But those younger voters, actually 18 to 44, are the percentage that really disapprove more than anyone. So again, is that really good or bad? It's kind of all equal. Bottom line is that it's good to know that your seniors, which are going to be your largest voting bloc, consider them to be, them doing a good job, if you will. Okay, moving on to the next slide, on slide 10. Let's now talk about the entity, because Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority is an enigma to many voters. What is it? This is not your typical, hey, we want to do a 1% sales tax. You guys are going to get the money and Public Works is going to spend it. This money's going elsewhere, so you got a different wrinkle here. And it's important to know that your voters know this entity, what percent have heard of it, and they have a good confidence level in it. So we asked them, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion? 25% have a favorable opinion, 18% unfavorable. So the improvement is actually better compared to the 22. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, am I?
Chris, can you advance?
Where am I? Sorry, slide 10 is what I'm trying to get to. Go back one, please. Thank you. Thank you. So what's the difference between 2022 and 2023? The good news is, because these are seniors, they do have, it has a net favorable opinion of them in a positive way. 25% favorable, 18% unfavorable. 29%, same amount said, I've heard of them, but I don't have an opinion, and 28% never heard of it. And it's not surprising that seniors probably have had more time to be familiar with this group, so that's a good, development there. Next slide, please. I'm not going to get into the details on awareness of the PPRTA, but right now, there's still going to be some education. People are going to need to know what this entity does, but for the most part, I consider you being in a pretty good place place where you have just under 50% having an opinion of them, and it's just a matter of letting them know that this entity will benefit the city and them. So next slide, please, on slide 12. Okay, now we're introducing to respondents exactly what the Pikes Peak Rural Transport Authority is, the process of joining it. And again, this is above average kind of complicated sort of stuff than the typical, hey, it's a sales tax and it's going towards roads. We're giving them the information, hey, this 1% sales tax is going to generate about $4 million annually and go directly to the PPRTA. It's going to cost 10 cents on a $10 purchase. Food and grocery store purchases are exempt. Would you vote yes and approve or vote no and reject? And if you go to slide 13, where are our support levels? And this is good. This is the uninformed ballot measure. We have not gotten into details. Last year, 58% said yes, they would approve. This year, a little bit lower, 3% lower, but still a majority saying they would approve and 34% saying no, that they would reject. This is a good place to start, okay? Especially with a more tax-sensitive, likely electorate. Next slide, please. And what you can see here is support levels by major subgroups. It's really good to see that those seniors are holding up at 55% as the overall. Unaffiliates, which are your largest voting bloc by party affiliation, are at 52%, so there's some work there to be done. All in all, though, we're starting off at a pretty good place. Now, is there perhaps recall going on here? Do respondents remember last year having this sort of discussion around it and then being like, you know what, we're not going with this, we're going to take care of public safety first, perhaps. But the good news is that we're not starting out with this ballot measure where they're like, absolutely no way. And I would want to share some things with you, okay? Last year we did 25 ballot measures. And in my 30 years of polling ballot measures, I've never seen inflation like this. I'm a 54-year-old guy, I've been doing this for 30 years, and it's like, I don't know, we're measuring stuff in April and May. Are these inflationary headwinds really going to prevent ballot measures of all sorts of things, public safety, road, transportation for municipalities or school districts? Nearly all of them passed that we measured that we're going to pass. Even in an inflationary environment, communities were supporting tax increases in this environment when it is for something that they really want or need. So I'm just going to make an observation for that. And we know your roads, and people are like, yeah, we definitely need to fix them. And two, that's perhaps where we may be starting out, where you have, all right, I want to hear more, but you're already in majority ground. So that I just want to share with you. It's not a hell no, no way community. I'm not saying there's not a portion of your community. Every community in Colorado has those, where they're like, no tax increases for any purpose. It's just inappropriate, especially now. Look, we're here, our job's to help you quantify that. So I just wanted to share that. So if you're questioning, well, wow, is this rosier than I would expect? Let me just share that with you. And you guys check both boxes where the roads definitely need to be fixed, 1% sales tax, and we haven't even gotten into how you're getting more back than what you're putting in, and we tell the story of that. So next slide. So now we walk through several information questions where we tell them, all right, we're now going to provide you some information. After hearing that information about this unique process, are you more likely to support and vote yes, or are you more likely to vote no and reject? And so what's the number one thing? And again, that came up where people, after hearing that information, are like, all right, I would vote for it. And it's, if Fountain voters decide to join the PPRTA and pass the 1% sales tax, the city would pay approximately $3.8 million into PPRTA, but would receive back over $5 million in revenue for both maintenance and street capital improvements. The return on voters' investment is 132%, receiving $1.32 back. That's the number one thing. Second thing right behind that, again, we still have an older electorate that may remember where the PPRTA's, governance and board did not guarantee dollars would come back to you. That was the second most supportive thing. We were like, all right, we've cleaned that up. We definitely know we're going to get it back. We wouldn't be going down this road if that was still the case. And as we walk through this, we, again, keep ranking what really matters. Another kind of light bulb going on, many residents of Fountain are already paying into the PPRTA. For those that work in El Paso County and other areas but you don't get those dollars back, whether you're at work or shopping, so you're already losing money. And it's important to know, and the Fountain Finance Department estimates that, that amount that's spent within other PPRTA governments is about 1.2 million. And then other things that are really informational. Here's the major roadways that are going to be taken care of, including Mesa, Cross Creek, Crest, and Ohio. By addressing these needs, we're going to have more of an opportunity. If we go to the next slide on 18, actually. That big reading one, we like people to know exactly what your responsibilities are that you're trying to address. It's good to educate and inform the community about what we're talking about here. And it talks about the backlog and that the current annual budget is only $650,000. However, there are, 50 to 75 million improvement projects on the books. It's good voters know that information. They want to know that information. And the second message here, again, the city has an estimated 50 to 75 million backlog, and it talks about for addressing the roads in certain neighborhoods can range anyone from 3 million to 8 million. Bring them in, let them know, educate them. I'm not lying. Talk about it in the King Super, talk about it wherever. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And this was, remember, we didn't even get to the asphalt increases that we've seen in the last year with inflation. So, but again, we're just trying to demonstrate this is why we're seriously considering this, because this is what we're, facing, and it's kind of hard to see how we get out of this. And then finally on slide 19, we're just talking about how it is a two-step process to join the PPRTA. There's, first of all, the 1% sales tax election that must be held, and letting them know that, we're going to get back capital funding for larger projects, just not annual maintenance. And, we've done our best to make this as simple as possible by spoon-feeding this information to them, because it is very unique. And then finally, just things like, hey, PPRTA is a collaborative effort of 6 governments. Everybody pays into the pot, you get more out of it. And then finally, telling them your tax increase is going to go from 7.53, your city sales tax, up to 8.53. So if we go to slide 21, so we educate and inform respondents, and then we bring them back around and say, okay, now that you kind of know. And what we're really doing here, folks, is trying to educate and inform them on information that they would likely either read in the Blue Book language or some semblance of a campaign. And I'll reference, how effective a campaign needs to be, because this is an above average kind of ballot measure, and people kind of need to know the details because it's not so straightforward. So we asked them again, okay, just as a reminder, 1% sales tax, this is what we're going to get back for. And if we go to slide 22, we can see that we didn't get a huge jump in support, but we did see an incremental increase where the percentage of folks that said, okay, yes, I would support it, increased by 4 points, and the percent that said that they would reject it went down by 5. So you're in that nice, where you want to be, 60% mark at the end of this. And if you go to slide 23, it breaks out by voter subgroup. And as you can see, we're in good levels here. The lowest level really out of these major subgroups is down in Ward 1, but it is still a majority. I'm not saying they're going to reject it, but you can kind of see where, like, all right, I get it. Most importantly, we got seniors at 65%, 65 and older at 59%. On affiliates, we did move by about 3 points, which is good because they're the largest voting bloc. And if you go to slide 24, it breaks it out. Dems moved 7 points. They're the smallest voting bloc. Ward 3 moved up by 7. And so this is just helpful to know who really changed hearts and minds on this. And then finally, the next slide, we now want to get to the open-ended verbatim. Now that they're informed, tell me why you would vote yes on this. And again, that's 59%. Roads are really bad and necessary. It's clearly a need that needs to be met. 2, it seems like a minimal, reasonable amount for what we're getting back in return. And others, we would now get benefits if we're already spending into it. They are repeating what they've learned because a lot of people are not aware of that. And then there's plenty of open-ended verbatims for you to review as your constituents to see what's actually, coming right out of the horse's mouth. Makes sense to get benefits from something we're already spending money on in our nearby city locations. Et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, there's support, and these people are there. They feel that it's a reasonable amount to ask for what they're getting in return. Now, on the other side of that, on slide 26, why 29% would vote no? Leading the way, the largest theme, I will not vote for any new taxes, or now is just basically not the time. There is some comments in there regarding there's no guarantee where the money will go or how we're going to be getting it back. Trust, there's folks that just don't trust that this is going to pan out the way as advertised. There's other things in here because the city, and again, I don't mean to point fingers here, we're just trying to report on the data. Because the city of Fountain has lied in the past about tax increases going to specific projects that were never completed, therefore I no longer will vote for any tax increases. Again, let me put this into context. We're talking about 29%. This is not 55%. Individuals like that have that viewpoint, they're all over Colorado. I'm not trying to dismiss this gentleman's comment in any way. I just want you to know, let me put it into context here so that, we can have a reasonable discussion about the level of opposition to this. Other ones, we already tax beyond our abilities to pay, et cetera. And so with that, I will stop, and I'm happy to take and answer your questions.
Okay. A lot of information, and you went through it really, really fast. Thank you very much. First, I'm going to take questions from council members. If anybody has any questions or they need anything clarified. Not seeing anybody. Okay. All right. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions about any of the data that was presented tonight? Anyone online? We do have someone online. Okay.
Yes, we do.
If you could please state your name for the record, please, and then ask your question.
Getting them online right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, my question is more like, what's going on with the current funds that have already been paid into the PPRTA through the various areas in Fountain that are already in the PPRTA?
I believe your question, we have a little child in the background. I believe your question might be, some of sections of Fountain are already paying into RTA?
Yes, correct. Sorry,
Yes.
that's my granddaughter.
Todd or Scott, do you want to handle that? If you
Yes,
could
we
go
do.
ahead and mute your microphone for a second.
We have portions of Fountain. Was the question, do we have portions of Fountain that are paying in?
It was, don't we already have some portions in it?
We do
And-
have portions that are paying into PPRTA. They're paying that 1%. In fact, if you think about where the Sam's Club is, that all is in PPRTA. Unfortunately, because we're not members, we don't receive any of those revenues. They go straight to RTA and those member communities.
Does that answer your question?
Well, then why are we paying into something if we're already not seeing the benefits from it?
Because those properties were already annexed into RTA when they were in the county, and the RTA boundaries were set. And they annexed into the city of Fountain, and since the city of Fountain is not a member of the RTA, we don't get to claim those tax dollars back. And that's one of the reasons that we're looking at this ballot measure.
Yeah, we actually went to the legislature several years ago to fight that, and also had Walmart actually had a lawsuit on that as well, trying to get out of that, but no dice.
My house falls under the PPRTA jurisdiction.
Yep, that's right. We have, there's a
And
number
I'm
of
behind.
properties. If you're in the neighborhood that was actually in the county when the RTA was created and then later on annexed, then that property is now in the RTA boundaries. And for example, we have a number of home businesses around the city that fit in that very scenario, and they have to actually pay taxes, and we don't see any of those.
Well, that answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else online with a question?
No one else online right now, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other council members with questions or comments? Anybody from staff with question or comments?
I'm just going to make the comment that we're going to make sure that we get all these results, the slideshow, everything online tomorrow morning so that the community can look at it, take their own time and read the information as well.
Yeah, we are not making a decision tonight. We're gathering the information, giving everybody time to get the information, look at it, get their comments and questions back to us. We really need you to contact us, and then we'll make our decision at a future meeting. But I believe we do need to let RTA know by the end of May that if we're going to go forward with this or not. We just need to tell them our decision. So, okay, last call. Go ahead.
Mayor, can I just make one more comment?
Yes.
Last year we measured the public safety ballot measure coming in and around the mid-50s, and that is what happened. And a lot of that happened because the firemen, the police, the folks that really, in a 6.2 mill levy increase was pretty hefty. But clearly with the expansion of the city, there was a will, there was a way, but the campaign was pretty darn good. And I'm not saying it has to be Cadillac and you need a ton of money to do it, but they were there, they made an effort. PPRTA, and for this ballot measure, is unlikely to have perhaps that sort of grassroots support there, if you will. So if there's an anemic or really close to non-existent where it's just really what's going to get put on the ballot and nobody's really informed about it, those support levels may not be achieved where we measured it between 55 and 59. So all I'm saying is, I know that is completely beyond your control, but just something to keep in mind as you look forward. The good news is, everybody wants these roads fixed. The condition of them are at a level where it's like, yep, I'm ready to listen. The challenge, though, joining PPRTA, just like the gentleman that just commented right now online, aren't we already in it, what's going on? And a campaign will really be needed, I think, to get the facts straight of, what this really does mean for the taxpayers in the city. So I just want to add that as one little asterisk on the measurements of what we measured here and what we would just recommend, because it may be a little bit less of an effort, and it could lower support levels.
Good advice. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you
All
again.
right, thank you very much. And that'll all be available tomorrow online. Perfect, okay. I'm sure there's a lot of information there. All right, that takes us on to the next item, 4.2, Board Commissions and Committees. We are being asked to appoint Patricia Heath to the second term on the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. And who is handling that tonight?
I will, Mayor.
Okay,
So Patricia Heath has submitted an application to be reappointed for a new 4-year term. I don't see her present here this evening, but she is currently serving on our Park Board at this time.
all right, thank you very much. So we have a recommendation from Ms. Joni for the Park Board to reappoint Ms. Heath. And what would council like to do? Councilmember Rick?
Move to appoint Patricia Heath to a second term on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Councilmember Hinton?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reappoint Ms. Heath. Please vote. It's coming.
7 yes, motion carried.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, that takes us on to item 5, City Council Agenda Request. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future consideration. I'm going to start on my left tonight. Councilmember Rick.
I have nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Corey.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Hinton.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Estes.
Nothing this evening?
Thank you. Councilmember Applegate.
Nothing new tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Duncan. Sorry about that.
I have nothing.
Thank you very much. Okay, all righty, that takes us on to item 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council member may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I do have one card that I received tonight, and it is from Mr. Ray, I don't want to ruin, Saltwaddell? Did I get it close? Okay, and you say you've already spoken to Councilmember Estes about the speed limits in town, and you'd like to come direct.
Yeah, I would. My name's Ray Saltwaddell. I live at 625 Clearview Drive. I've lived in this town for 58 years, and the things I'm seeing now, I see a speed limit posted on all these corners, but my concern is why ain't they being enforced? Within the last 2 weeks, right in front of the police station, there's been an officer pulling out between the pawn shop and there. I'm going through that intersection at 35, and I get passed by somebody that's so got to be in front of you to get through that light. And that's happened 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And if you don't have a problem, go set up at the fire station on Fountain Mesa with a radar gun, because there is not one car does 30 miles an hour. My concern is why aren't they being enforced, and why aren't you applying points to speeding tickets instead of just a fine? If they would start stacking points up on their license, their insurance goes up, maybe people would pay heed to it. And I got another question with you guys and your taxes. I worked construction for 2 or 3 years, and I was all over this place. And I ran a service truck. I was in Canyon City, I was in Pueblo, I was in Falcon, I was in Black Forest. And I know it's probably a lot more city cars that's out of town, but when you see police cars all over out of town, you're thinking, why are they down here? But more or less with personal vehicles. I'm going to use the one I seen in Canyon City all the time. I don't know the exact mileage, but I'm guessing 50 miles one way. The officer comes to work, that's 50 miles. He goes home, that's 100 miles. He works 5 days a week, that's 500 miles. He works 4 weeks, that's 2,000 miles. That car's due for service at 3. All the gas, tire wear, oil is just a personal vehicle. And I know in this town, about 30, 35 years ago, was a big blow up about city vehicles leaving town. And I almost think it went to the vote. And if no city vehicles left town unless you was a department head, then you had 1 year to move into town. And I see it as a waste, especially that point right there. You're worried about budgets and this and that, but there's a problem in this town. And it needs to get enforced. I go through the school zones over here every morning, and they're not enforced. And you got kids trying to cross the street. That wealthy one, them poor kids ain't got a chance because people ain't stopping for them. Even though it's a state law, you need to stop for people in crosswalks, whether it's a flashing light or not. And that's not getting enforced. When I was construction, I was all over there. So yeah, there's bad drivers all over, but this is a king of them down there. So I think it needs to be looked up. When the city vehicles, I think it went to the vote in front of people because they was upset about these city vehicles, and that's when it was changed back. But what I'd like to know, when did it change to allow all these vehicles to leave town? That's a waste of taxpayer dollars right there, I see.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Please, Chief Hubbard, would you follow up with Mr. Saul? I'm sorry.
Ray and I actually know each other, so he has my card. We spoke before this. I'll absolutely follow up. I just give a couple of comments, and I appreciate your comments. Ray, you know I live here too. I drive on the same streets. Post-COVID, coming out of COVID, we saw aggressive driving, 100 miles an hour speeders across the county explode. So we really addressed it. We increased our traffic team with the support of City Council from 2 to 4. There's 4 now. In the last 2 years, we averaged 4,500 tickets a year. So I do want you to know an increased average from about 3,000 with the increase of traffic was 4,500 tickets a year for the last 2 years.
What?
3 times, and I'm pretty sure it's the same car that done it. And it was 3 different things, and I'm thinking, well, I'm pulling over because somebody's getting a ticket, and it don't happen.
Yes, sir.
And it's right there from here to the wall in front of them.
Yes, sir. I don't know the specifics. I don't know if that cop's leaving the PD going for a call, being dispatched.
Or do you think you'd leave with the red light, not sitting there?
You would think they don't always go lights and sirens for safety at all, but you have my contact information. If you let me know when you see it, then I'll address it.
Okay.
We can pull their AVL data and I can pencil it down for you and figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Okay.
It's getting to be a problem.
Yes, sir.
Really bad. And
Yes, sir.
I talked to the sheriff today because I was working on his vehicle. He says it's bad, but he lives in Fountain. He said, yeah, there is a problem down
Yep,
there.
it's and it's countywide, it's region-wide, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem for highway patrol.
Can this town apply a tax to it? It's like a road tax. If you're gonna purposely speed and tear up the road, can you add a tax to it legally?
I'll defer that to the city attorney.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You guys want to generate revenue.
We generated with those 4,500 tickets a lot of revenue last year. We exceeded our,
100 a minute up
yeah,
there
we
at the
exceeded,
fire station.
we did. And the fire station, Fountain Mesa 85, 87, those are the majority of our accidents. That's the majority of our traffic enforcement, those 2 areas.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. And I did pass the school zone the other day, and when I was leaving, somebody was getting a ticket, and when I was coming back home, somebody was getting a ticket. So they do catch them.
Yeah, but the thing is.
They're not every time, though, I get it, but anyways,
The thing with
Mr.,
Fountain,
but,
it's been
yeah.
this way for years, You get a ticket in Fountain, it's a fine, because they waive the points.
We
They
got a
need to
new
start
judge.
banking the
We
points.
got a new judge in town, literally, and I
But
sat in
they're
her-
again going to
sat in her
motor
court
vehicles.
recently, and nobody walked out without a ticket.
Yeah,
or without a
but they
fine,
got a
so-
ticket for a
No,
fine.
without a fine. Nobody walked out without a fine. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you in public, but we are working on it. Sounds
Okay,
like you and
but-
Chief Hubbard need to maybe have another cup of coffee, huh? Coffee with a cup. Coffee with a cup. How about with a coffee with a cop? We'll go with that one. A cup and a coffee, whatever. Okay, let's move on. Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to say anything tonight? If you do, please come down to the mic and state your name and what you'd like to talk about. Is there anyone online?
No one online.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, that takes us on to our consent agenda. All items listed in the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of the council. We have consent agenda item 7A. What would council like to do? Councilmember Estes?
I move to approve consent.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Rick?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us on to old business, item 8A, second reading of ordinance 1785, an ordinance amending chapter 18.04 Building Code of Title 18 Building Codes of the Fountain Municipal Code as amended pertaining to the adoption of the Pikes Peak Regional Building Code 2023 edition. Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is second reading. There have been no changes since first reading. I'll let you know additionally to Regional Building has their general counsel here as well. If you have any questions, I'm sure that Roger or Gina have the answers. So I'll leave it at that for you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone from council that has any questions on anything on the new building code? Is there anyone in the audience, any questions on anything on the new building code? Okay, seeing none, what would council like to do? Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I move to approve ordinance number 1785 on second reading.
Councilmember Duncan?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the new regional building code. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much for coming down tonight. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, we have item 9, new business. Item 9A, consideration of items removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Item 9B, public hearing and resolution for 2317. So I'm opening a public hearing, a resolution adopting the City of Fountain 3-mile plan for 2023. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Christy Martinez with the City of Fountain Planning Department. The item before you is a statutory requirement on all municipalities to adopt annually the Comprehensive Development Plan 3-mile plan. That is outlined in Statute 3112-1051E, which stipulates that all municipalities must annex land. That they may not extend their boundaries more than 3 miles in any one direction in any 1 year. This does mandate that each municipality update that plan annually, so the item before you tonight will meet that statutory requirements. There have been no changes to the 3-mile plan since 2021, and public notice of this hearing was advertised in the Gazette. This figure is Figure 1 of the Comprehensive Development Plan, which does show the blue boundary showing the 3-mile plan, or the 3-mile boundary of the existing city limits. As you notate, it does not extend to the western boundary, which is all federal land for Fort Carson, as local rules and regulations do not apply to federal lands. Very similar to Figure 1 of the annexation plan, it does show that same 3-mile boundary. However, at the annexation plan, it does show the urban services area in addition to that 3 mile in here. So that's why it does extend into the western side along Fort Carson. Staff finds that the city has previously adopted the comprehensive development plan, which is mandated by state statutes, in addition to the 3 mile plan outlined in Figure 1 of the comprehensive development plan and Figure 1 of the city's annexation plan. This item was presented to the Planning Commission at their April 5th meeting, at which time they did make a favorable recommendation by a vote of 4-0. Staff would recommend approval of Resolution 23017 tonight to comply with the statutory requirements that the municipality adopt a 3 mile plan. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council? Okay, seeing this is a public hearing, are there any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing, bringing it back up to the podium. What would council like to do with this item? Councilmember Duncan?
I move the approval of Resolution 23-017.
Okay, we have a motion, and I'm not sure who rang in second, so Councilmember Hinton?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on first reading of ordinance 1786. Is there any further discussion from council? Seeing none, please vote.
I have 7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. That takes us item 9D, resolution number 23-019, a resolution authorizing the utilities director to enter into the water treatment contract. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that correction. Takes us back to item 9C, first reading of ordinance 1786, an ordinance amending chapter 17.04 zoning districts, section 17.04.120, C.2, regional commercial dimensional requirements of the Fountain Municipal Code. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. Christy Martinez again with the City of Fountain Planning Department. The item before you is a request to amend a development standard within the regional commercial zone district specific to the minimum lot width and the minimum lot depth, which was established. In the current zoning ordinance, it does establish a minimum lot width of 150 feet and a minimum lot depth of 150 feet. However, as commercial development comes to fruition, they want to provide a broad range of commercial services which would fall under various lot sizes. So by eliminating the minimum lot width and lot size, we would be able to accommodate a vast variety of different commercial development. We are still retaining the minimum lot size, which is a ½ an acre. So if you did the area of the lot width and the lot width and the lot depth, it actually is larger than what the minimum lot size would have been. So there was a conflict in those two standards. All other development standards would remain the same within the RC zone district. So as you can see, this is just an excerpt of subsection C of the regional zone district. It does have the minimum lot area as ½ an acre, which is the 21,780 square feet, and would eliminate just the minimum lot width and depth. Everything else would remain the same. It's not uncommon for commercial development to redevelop. So an example is New Life Church. This is an aerial photo from 2021 that shows their chapel facility, but they also have a large parking lot along their southern boundary. In 2023, they've redeveloped that to subdivide their parking out into commercial development. So this is a multi-tenant parcel with a Dutch Brothers coffee shop. And then in the background, it kind of blends in with the mountains, but that is their chapel in their back, right behind the building right about here. So it's not uncommon for commercial development to redevelop to provide a variety of lot sizes and widths for their future tenant or owner to accommodate that. This item was also presented to the Planning Commission at their April 5th meeting, where they made a favorable recommendation of 4-0. It is staff's recommendation tonight to approve Ordinance 1786 on first reading, which would be approving an amendment to the Regional Commercial Zone District by eliminating that specific development standard. Are there questions for staff?
Okay, does anybody on council have any questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Mr. Couch, please come on down and state your name for the record.
Darrell Couch, City of Fountain. I may be a little confused here, but the 150 by 150 it's only 350 square feet difference, this being slightly smaller. Does that mean that it can be any kind of irregular shaped lot? And does that cause more room for discussion on how that affects all their lot setbacks and everything? I mean, I don't quite understand how, before it was a minimum 150 by 150. Now it can be a half an acre, but it's got to be, it doesn't have to be 150 by 150 anymore. So it could be a long, thin strip. Does that cause new problems for us?
Ms. Martinez?
Thank you. Good question. Actually, no, it doesn't. By having the specific standard size, we actually ended up with a lot of wasted space that would ended up being dead space, or they would turn it into excessive parking spaces. So it does allow for a variety of lot dimensions to fit the tenant's needs. So whether they need a long skinny lot or a wider lot with less depth, it all depends on that size, but it would still retain that minimum lot size. And you are correct, it is a slight difference between the minimum lot sizes, but
Not much.
not much, no.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Couch?
The planning expert, I'm just seeing that when we change the lot dimension minimums, that we get a lot of odd shape trying to fill out a development of commercial property, and we can end up with some really irregular. It's not my problem. I'm just asking if it's creating a problem. That was what I was
Right.
asking.
Okay, thank you. And planning, you said you're comfortable with it. All right, thank you. Mr. Rick?
Yes, question for Dan Blankenship. Chris, can you go back one slide? One more? I'm sorry, one more. I'm looking for there we go. Dan, we got a minimum setback in the front of 20 feet and a rear setback of 25. Is that going to be enough for your utility department to get the utilities in? That's my only concern here. I just want to make sure utilities is not going to be cramped.
Yeah, that's more than adequate to accommodate the standard utility easements.
Okay, that's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions or discussion from anyone in council? If not, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Corey?
Move to approve ordinance 1786 on first reading.
Okay, and I'm not sure if Councilmember Applegate or Duncan rang in.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on ordinance number 1786. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. That takes us on to item 9D, resolution number 23-019, a resolution authorizing the Utilities Director to enter into the water treatment contract between the Fountain Valley Authority and the City of Colorado Springs, the City of Fountain, Security Water District, Strathmore Hills Water District, and Widefield Water and Sanitation District for continued water conveyance, treatment, and delivery services. Mr. Murphy, welcome.
Good evening, council. Good evening, members of the public. So this item before you is a contract for the city to continue receiving water treatment, conveyance, and delivery services from the Fountain Valley Authority. We abbreviate it as the FVA. It's a common term in the water utility. Before we get into the contract, I would like to give you all a quick, brief overview of what the FVA is and what it does, just because it is such a vital piece of the Fountain's water system and plays such an important role on the city. So really quickly, as you noted, the FVA, it's a governmental entity that is founded and comprised of 5 different governmental utilities, effectively: the City of Fountain, the City of Colorado Springs, and the water districts that serve the communities of Security, Widefield, and Strathmore. It was founded in 1979, and it was really founded on three main principles that it was stood up for. That is to manage and operate the Fountain Valley Conduit. That is a pipeline I will show you on the next slide. It was to create a mechanism to repay the Bureau of Reclamation for constructing that pipeline. And most importantly for us, it was founded to install, fund, and create a water treatment plant that would treat water for those 5 listed communities. So just a quick schematic overview of the FVA system. The FVA pipes water from Pueblo Reservoir north through Pueblo County, El Paso County, and it reaches a treatment plant that is immediately south of the Fountain Utilities Operations Center on the same property as Colorado Springs' Ray Nixon Power Plant. At that point, the water is treated and then it is pumped north. The fountain receives that water at our southwest tank. There is a spur that comes off of this large pipeline in the vicinity of the Mesa Ridge intersection. That sends water to the Goldfield tanks up near Fontaine Boulevard. That serves Fountain, Widefield, and Security. And then not shown on the schematic, that pipe continues up alongside the west edge of the interstate to the South Academy Highlands area, where it is spilled into tanks that serve Strathmore and Colorado Springs utilities. And so this project is a key piece to all 5 of the utilities' water portfolios and how they actually put treated water into their systems for their customers. So just to give you a bit of a sense of how this system or how this entity is structured, it is governed by its own board of directors. That board is comprised of executives from each of the component members. In Fountain's case, our utility director, Dan Blankenship, serves as Fountain's voting member on that board. We have a voting say in how it operates and the decisions that it makes. The actual system itself is operated on a day-to-day basis by Colorado Springs utility staff under a management contract with the entity. Their staff does all of the turning of the valves, the running of the treatment plants, the maintenance on the pipe, the accounting of the water, and they are paid for their services by fees that the entity assesses to each of its members, as if we had to pay for our own treatment operators for such a system. It's important to note that this entity does not actually own any water rights on its own. There are no water rights under the name of the Fountain Valley Authority. All that it does is provide the service to convey, treat, and deliver each of the 5 members' water rights to their service territories. Each of us, as the 5 utilities, one of the big focuses in managing our water is to get it into storage in Pueblo Reservoir. From there, this is a tool for us to use to physically move that water uphill and get it into our storage tanks as treated finished water. So this is a key tool for us, but it does not confer any water rights on the utilities themselves. That's for us to manage and us to get the water where we need it to be. And lastly, it's important to note that the FVA owns all of the infrastructure up to the water storage tanks at each utility. So it has the sole responsibility for the maintenance, the upgrades, the replacement of the treatment plants, the pipes, the pumps, everything between Pueblo and the storage tanks. But we all pay into those maintenance costs as members of this entity. So just to kind of dial it down to how this really affects Fountain, Fountain has a 9.95% ownership stake in this authority. So we own approximately 10% of the system. We are entitled to 10% of the capacity in that pipeline, 10% of the capacity in that treatment plant. On top of that, it's also important to note that although we are members of the Southern Delivery System, Colorado Springs additional pipeline from Pueblo, we do not receive any physical water through that system. Instead, we have a swap agreement with Colorado Springs whereby the capacity we own in the SDS system, we are allowed to move that much water in this FVA pipeline. Colorado Springs gets to use the capacity in the SDS pipeline. So all of Fountain's physical water from Pueblo Reservoir comes through this FVA system, meaning it's a very critical piece of infrastructure for us. And then the deliveries through the system, comprising both the FVA water that we move and the water that we swap with Colorado Springs under the SDS, it amounts to about 70% of the city's total water deliveries for the year. So this system makes up over 70% of the water that we receive throughout the year. The other 30% is supplied by local supplies such as our Aga Park water treatment facility and some other localized wells that we run in partnership with Widefield and Security. So now to bring it all back down to the item before you tonight, this system was stood up in 1979, as I noted. It was authorized with a 40-year contract. Each of the member entities contracts with the authority, and that contract dictates how water is received, how the billing is managed, and just other conditions of how that service will be provided. That contract expired in 2019. We have been operating under temporary agreements since that time to continue to receive treated water, but all of the parties have agreed that it's time for us to put a new permanent contract in place, or a long-term contract, I should say, in place so that everything is formalized and that there are no legal issues going forward. The contract before you tonight is this new 40-year contract. If approved, it would carry us through 2063. It's largely similar to the previous contract that was authorized in 1979. That contract has served us well. We haven't had any major contractual issues with it. The only difference in this new contract is that it has some updates to more clearly identify how the parties will be served with water if there is a shutdown or maintenance of this pipeline or treatment system. And there's some added language to just legally reflect TABOR, which has been the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that was introduced since that original contract. Otherwise, everything else is fundamentally the same as the prior contract. And then the final note that I'd like to make is just that this contract is not locking the city into any fixed dollar amount. We budget for this treatment system through our annual budgeting process that is worked into the utility's source of supply budget, the cost for us to get and treat water. And so we work with FEA on a year-to-year basis to budget out and project those costs. That is inside of the budget packet that you see every year for this system. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, I have a question from a council member. Councilmember Rick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Murphy, question.
Yes, sir.
If we approve this contract, are we going to get a request to have a water rate increase because of what's in the contract?
No, this contract does not impact the cost of that water in any way, shape, or form. All it does is set the parameters for how water will be billed, how costs will be allocated, and how this system will effectively be managed for the benefit of the partners. The actual costs for the water, as I said, are in the annual budgeting process. We feel comfortable right now, especially with recent maintenance that has gone on in the system, that those costs will not drastically change or increase. They would necessitate a water rate increase because of this FEA system.
That's all I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I was just wondering, that 9.95% of the water delivered up the pipeline now, does that include our SDS portion that's in there?
That does not. The SDS portion is on top of that. That is more of a floating target just based on the form of the contract we have with Colorado Springs to trade capacity in those pipelines. The 9.95 is the base amount of just the FEA system we have under the FEA contract. So that works out to about 1.8 million gallons every day. Under our contract with Colorado Springs, we can add on an additional roughly 3.6 million gallons per day when we need it, so long as we give them that equivalent space in their southern delivery pipeline.
Okay, and that's our full amount from the SDS?
Yes,
We
sir.
can- Okay, that's all I wondered. Thank you.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, maybe I missed it, but what was our percentage as far as maintenance fee, as far as the total that we all kind of pay into? What is our part that we pay as far as?
For any fixed costs, which is going towards maintenance, towards administrative costs, things like that, we pay that 9.95%. So if they incur $1 million expense, we will pay 99,500 of that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any further questions from any council members? Is there any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, seeing none, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Estes?
I move to approve Resolution 23-019, authorizing Utilities Director to execute the water treatment contract with the Fountain Valley Authority. Just want to say, Mr. Murphy, that was an excellent presentation, really explained a lot of things to me.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Applegate?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second on resolution number 23-019. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that takes us on to item 10, correspondence, comics, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I have just 2 items I wanted to mention. Last week, we did an announcement. We were excited that the county was going to be installing their DMV kiosk at Safeway. And then we immediately found out that they had technical glitches, so we had to re-announce that it'll be fixed this week. So we'll let people know when it's up and running. We're excited to get that down here, and they really, excuse me, went out of their way to really get that thing in here quickly. I was surprised how quickly that they've got it down here. They're going to do more of a grand opening, but to begin with, they want to do kind of a soft opening, just so they can test it out, make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. So we're excited about that. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this will be become more public tomorrow, PPIR is doing an Independence Day weekend event right before the 4th of July. So on July 1st, they're going to be hosting, well, actually July 1st and 2nd, they're going to be hosting a race event. But the evening of the 1st, because they've heard from us of all the questions and issues that we have with fireworks around this community, around the Independence Day, that they're hosting an event. It's a concert event that evening from 8 to midnight. In that time period, they're going to have a couple really cool drone shows that are going to be synchronized to drift cars and music and lasers, anyway, all kinds of stuff. And in the middle of that, they're also going to have a fireworks show. So we're really excited. They're going to start doing their announcements tomorrow, and then we're going to just support them on getting that information out as well. They want to make sure they get plenty of notice to folks so they can plan for the week or the weekend. And yeah, there's some kind of exciting information to follow as well. But I'll leave that up to PPIR to announce that stuff. But I just want to make sure I let everyone know. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Evans, nothing? Troy? Chief Graham?
I would just like to, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'd like to plug Autism Night Out, which will be a week from tonight, 6 o'clock at Metcalf Park. New venue, obviously the last several have been at the fire station, and so this year we're changing it to Metcalf Park to accommodate the number of people that we've had in the past. Fire, which obviously will be the fan favorite for the night. The PD will also be in attendance, and new this year will be the transit department. They're going to participate, and so they've been doing some public outreach with the schools and the kids, and they've asked to be a part of it. So we're excited to have them on board. So hope to see everybody that night, a week from tonight, and that's all I have.
And you're saying kids, but there's no age limit on it,
Correct.
right? There is no age limit. So if
Correct.
somebody wants to bring adults to that, they are more than welcome to come.
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right, great, thank you. Chief Heber.
Since Todd deferred his minutes to me, out of respect for my presence here tonight, I did want to catch you up on a couple of things. Just want you to know that we're working really hard on the homicide that took place on Easter. You know, it's a tough way for a family to start Easter. It's tough for our community. I know the mom is posting on our social media, and my intent is to reach out to her. Our solve rate on those is 100%, and we intend to give that family justice to the best of our ability. Thank you to you, Mayor, and Representative Bradfield on working with the tribute to Julian that we will do this Thursday up on the House floor. I know several of you are coming. We'll have an early day up. We have reserved parking with Highway Patrol right next to the Capitol, so it'll be easy in onto the floor, and then it'll be really a great tribute that we'll keep on hand there at the police department, and we appreciate that. I don't know what Scott's talking about fireworks. I haven't heard any concern about fireworks lately. Not lately. I just want you to know that Troy met with Matt and the fire marshal, my staff. My staff right now at the fire department has the lead on an ordinance that we want to put before you that will give better enforcement opportunities and make it a little safer and a little more accountability. So we're working that hard. Scott and everyone's been working really hard on partnering with PPIR. That's a great welcome addition. I think I cried a tear when Scott told me they were going to do something big like that. You know, the intent is that it could, if over time it can just reduce some of the fireworks stress in our community, over time we can build it and it'll get better. And that would be in everyone's best interest. Hiring at the PD is up and running. We did oral boards today. I say that because it's significant. We're short a couple officers now. We haven't backfilled our traffic team. We're just trying to make sure the patrol division is manned. So once those new people get on board and we'll get the traffic back out to 4, that'll make a little bit of an impact there. More importantly is we're in negotiations with District 8 at the request of Fort Carson and District 8 to take over all SROs for the 5 schools that are on District 8, at Fort Carson. It's no surprise they're incredibly happy with our service. It's the best SRO team probably in the state, if not in the country. They want to provide that high level of service to the students and families on Fort Carson. When I was first approached with that over a year ago, my intent was to support it. It's one of the things we're most proud of. We've worked over the last year to create a memorandum of agreement that we're all reviewing right now to make some changes. And the intent is, as early as this summer, to begin hiring for those positions and to use the existing civilian positions at Fort Carson to augment and eventually take that over. It's not going to happen overnight, but I just want to keep you posted on that because you'll see that environment, and we'll definitely be going between Devin, myself, with Public Safety and 2B and the SROs. We'll definitely be doing a lot of hiring. So, we appreciate HR support in that, and we're going to need to work very quickly over the next year to do that. But that's good news. Last thing, I wish Al was still here. I wanted to thank Al. Al, over the summertime, he donated about $3,000 worth of gym equipment to our fire departments, and also went to the center department that's out kind of on our Mark Shuffle. He did that as he was moving downsizing. I wish he was still here. Devin and I went and paid him a visit this week just to tell him thank you for the donation. So if you see Al and you want to mention that to him, we really appreciated that. And of course, his heart's always been real good on public safety, and he wanted that gym equipment to go to the firefighters, and the firefighters are putting it to work. So thank you very much, and it's good to see everybody tonight.
And for those fireworks concerns, your email address is chuber@fountainpd.com, right?
It's actually sharon.thompson@fountain.org. Yeah, that's correct, ma'am. That's correct. I am fielding all fireworks.
Well, since that isn't my email address, we're safe.
Right,
So-
good. So we've had some good discussions with the community. We really appreciate that. Obviously, in years from the past, I've been out there firsthand to see it. We all live here, whether it's speeding and fireworks, we want to make our community safe. I understand that living here. We're going to do the best job we can. So I'm excited.
Right. Nothing that leaves the ground is legal in Colorado.
That's correct.
Right. Okay, so before you go to Wyoming and spend $10,000 and get them confiscated, you might want to remember, nothing that leaves the ground is legal.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All righty. Mr. Blankenship.
Nothing this evening, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Martinez.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
And who else is back there? I'm sorry? Oh,
Nothing
Taylor.
this evening.
Can't see. That's right. And IT, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. And City Clerk?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. All righty, we'll bring it back up here. Councilmember Duncan.
I just want to talk about some of the things that are coming down from Denver. On my own today, representing myself, I testified on the advanced clear truck rulemaking. I feel that transportation is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gas emission, and I spoke on behalf of myself, not on behalf of Fountain, but just want to know that just as PFAS is important in our water, we should also be concerned about toxic pollution in our state. And we have a lot of trucks running through Fountain, so I'm very concerned about that, even with my own ability to be able to breathe here in this city. Colorado Springs had an election. They got 3 new council members. I want to congratulate them on that. I also would like, as we are talking about different bills that are going through, it is important for our citizens to get engaged. You don't have to drive to Denver to get engaged, to know what's going on at the Capitol. You can go online. They have recordings that you can review at your leisure. You also can do live. You can do live stream. You can testify, and you can testify live. You don't have to go down to do so. So it's really important that you get engaged. You can go online. If you're having problems with going online and being able to testify, they have a number that you can dial. They have some wonderful people that answer the phone, and they just They do all the information for you. All you have to be is ready to testify at your time. So I'm encouraging all of our citizens to get engaged. The last thing I have is that CML is looking for board members coming up in July, and I wanted to know if any of our council wanted to be on that board.
I don't know what positions are open, but I'll look at it. Yeah, unless you're interested in looking at it, and then we can talk about it. So, anybody else want to be on the CML board? Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right. Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to the police department. That's quite a compliment that they would prefer your officers as SROs, and a base of that size would want us to provide our SROs. That's,
I think it'll be the first of its kind of a relationship in the nation. So
I think
we're
it's
looking
quite
forward to it.
impressive, and that says a lot for our police force.
Thank you, sir.
So, great job.
Councilmember Estes.
Just a quick reminder that El Paso County is holding a fair housing event this Friday between 1 and 2:30, and that will be at the Fountain Valley Senior Center. And there will be speakers and multiple topics from El Paso County Department of Economic Development and Brothers Redevelopment. So I encourage everybody, if you're interested in any of those topics, to please come on out to the Senior Center between 1 and 2:30. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hinton.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to Parks and Rec, Sylvia Gordy, for the park that is happening, reconstruction at Metcalf Park. Every day, my grandson drives by and he's can't wait for it to get done, and so we're excited for that to happen. I saw that them kind of installing the horses and all that. It's the little thing there, and so he's excited. So I just want to give a quick shout out to them.
Okay. Well, if you need a horse reserved for the ribbon cutting, let me know, okay?
No, I'm good, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Corey.
Due to my on-call schedule, I will not be joining you guys Thursday, but I wish you and the chief the best in Denver. I hope that it goes well, and I hope we're able to say good things, on Julian Becerra's behalf, and I hope that starts some rhetoric, starts some conversation up in the State House, so. Yep, I really truly hope that, so yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Rick.
Yes, I want to follow up on Chief Heber's comment about number of tickets in Fountain. 4,500 last year. It sounds like a lot, but when you break that down over 365 days, you're talking a little over 12 tickets a day or one ticket every 2 hours. I don't think that is a low number. I think for me, that's just about right. I think we're doing the right things. I have talked to some police professionals. You can't ticket your way to safety. You got to convince people to drive the right way and do the right things. And I definitely don't want people to get the impression that we're trying to balance our budget by increasing the number of traffic tickets just to bring more money into the city. That's not the way I think I want our city to operate. And I applaud the chief for his efforts in traffic control. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a statewide issue. It is not exclusive to Fountain. It is not exclusive to El Paso County. It's statewide. And when you go to the Drive Smart meetings, everybody's talking about the excessive speed. First of all, it's like people forgot how to drive during COVID. And then they found the gas pedal. And they need to figure, I can remember in driver's training, which I think we desperately need back in our schools. In driver's training, the guy, every day before you got in the car, you drive with the gas pedal, not with the brake. You anticipate and you drive with the gas pedal. You're not racing ahead and slamming on the brake. So I think, I think that's some thoughts. I'd like to take a minute and talk about Senate Bill SB 213 that I think could have some drastic consequences for our state and what's going on here. That is a Senate bill that they are pawning off, that it has to do with affordable housing. Fred, you weren't here, Councilmember Hinton, you weren't here last meeting. We all signed a letter in opposition to that. And I really appreciate everybody doing that. I think our sentiments are known in Denver for the fact that I was there at 10:30 in the morning and didn't get to testify till between 7 and 7:30 at night. And so sat there all day long, and a very long day. But the elected officials who are coming up there supporting it are few and far between. And just there's a really, really good article in the 8th in the Gazette that I think really talks very, very well about what this could do. Right now, most of us live in single-family zoning. And this, if this was enacted, the house next door to you in your single-family zoning could be changed into apartments. You can't do anything about it. No public hearing, no public input. The state is taking away the right of you as a home rule municipality to decide how you want your community to look. I was in a meeting earlier today and somebody made a comment. An investor could come in and conceivably purchase 3 or 4 lots in a single family zoning, scrape them, and put 3-story apartments right next door to you. We couldn't do a thing about it. They're not required to increase the parking. Dan, what would that do to our utilities?
Yeah, that would definitely create an adverse impact because we obviously plan based on what the anticipated, densities and occupation of those areas would be. And so our ability to serve water is already limited. But additional or higher density uses would certainly adversely impact that.
Right, and nothing in this bill addresses affordable housing. Talks about density. That's all it talks about is density. So if this law were to go into effect, a single-family zoned home would be allowed a matter of right, use of right, to install apartments in an existing house, build 6-unit apartment houses in the backyard, construct townhomes and cottage clusters. Cottage clusters are interesting because you can put 4 to 6 homes, kind of like you build a little cul-de-sac in your backyard, and 900 square feet. We can't tell them how many people can live in their homes. We can't tell them that they have to provide parking. Chief Hubbard, is parking an issue in this town when somebody has a big party?
Yes, ma'am.
So it would be a big issue every night. Public safety is not addressed in this bill at all. The density doesn't address how many police officers or fire people that you have to have. And I know there's a formula, right, for how many people in apartments that you, per firefighter, right? And I'm very, very concerned. I'm very concerned that this is drastically going to take away the right of our city to decide how we want it to look. And just for someone who's determined just to basically increase the population for the state of Colorado. It was estimated in the fiscal note the first year this would cost the city $30,000 just in reports to come into compliance. And those reports have to be redone every 5 years at an estimated cost of $125,000 every 5 years. Can we afford that, Todd?
We cannot, and one thing that they'll never be able to measure, Mayor, is the neighbor versus neighbor calls for service and the anger towards the government that it will create.
And this will not be us.
Correct.
This will not be us, because the state is trying to do a huge overreach and take away your power on how you determine that your community wants to look. So we need the citizens' help. We need everybody to start. Senator Gardner has already come out against this. He's our senator who represents us here, so it doesn't do any good to, call him up and yell at him. Senator Exum supports this bill. He sat there like I better take a deep breath, huh? He sat there and didn't say anything the entire time except when he called different people up for the committees. He didn't say a word about this bill. I don't know how you assume that, but maybe he needs to hear from us. That, and you, every single one of you. Senator Kirkmeyer did a great job on this, really asking detailed questions, so I appreciate her support on this bill. But there are people, they turned the committee hearing into a stakeholder listening session, so there's going to be a lot of amendments come back to this bill that we need to be on top of. But basically, this bill needs to die, it needs to go away, and let the communities figure out how to deal with affordable housing in their communities, because this does not do it. This will, the philosophy behind this is if you just build more, the price will eventually go down. Anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox and end this meeting, but we really need everybody to look up Senate Bill 23-213. Look at it, study it. It's 104 pages long. There's a lot of stuff in there. We as a council took a position of oppose. City of Monument took a oppose. Lots of others. We did a mayoral letter between probably 4 or 5 mayors in this area in El Paso County. We all were in opposition to it. But we need the citizens to speak up. So if you're hearing about this tonight, share it. Share it with your friends. Get the emails going. Just a really quick email. Individually, they don't like letters because the clerks and stuff want to put them in these little email files, you know, rather than paper files, because that's so much work to get out a paper file. And make it short, sweet, polite. Just say that local control, right? All righty, I'm off my soapbox. I can keep going. I'm passionate about this one, okay? We moved to Fountain for a reason, right? Because we like the look of the community. All right, our meeting is, oh, nope. Thank you. All right, all righty. Ms. Joni, announcement of an executive session, please.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the city charter and the Colorado Open Meetings Act, the city council open session is to determine whether it will hold a closed executive session. A closed executive session may be held upon an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the quorum present. If consent to the closed executive session is not given, the items may be discussed in open session or withdrawn from consideration. The purpose of the executive session is pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024 for the purpose of review, approval, and amendment of executive session minutes. Section 24-6-4024F for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter and not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that did not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we have a request from our city clerk to go into executive session. What would council like to do with that? Councilmember Rick.
Move we go into executive session.
Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. We'll take, oh, there's no clock up there, is there? Let's see. It is 7:28. We'll be back at 7:33.